G-O-N-Y. So schizogony is the cycle of is a part of the malaria cycle that is completed in the human. So you have sporogony, mosquito, schizogony, or the schizogonic cycle in the humans. So once the sporozoites gets into the human being, it goes to the liver and it stays in the liver just for a little while, depending on which of the malaria parasite is being transmitted. And so this stage, the liver stage, is called the exoerythrocytic cycle. Erythrocytes are blood cells. True or false? True, miss. So this is called the exoerythrocytic cycle, meaning it's the cycle that is not occurring in the blood. So there's a blood stage in the human and there's a liver stage. So the liver stage is called the exoerythrocytic cycle. And so the sporozoite comes in and it goes through a lot of development. I don't need to concentrate on that. But the important thing that you'll note from this stage is that the stage, the parasite in the liver is called hypnozoites. Hypno zoites, hypnozoites. No, in malaria is in Falciparum ovale and Falciparum vivax. The parasite can spend years as hypnozoites. So while some will go into the blood cycle, some can remain in the hypnozoite stage. And that's how we can have the recrudescence or the reoccurrence. So somebody who was infected with malaria vivax, for example, and would have been treated for the blood stage, because when they do the treatment is really for the blood stage. And so the parasite would have been cleared from the blood. When we look at their blood side, it's negative, and we say that they're okay, they're fine. And then years after, without going back to an endemic place or without being bitten by another infected mosquito, that person can come down with malaria again. It is because the hypnozoites, the liver stage, now begin to shed again into the blood stage. And you see that with vivax and ovale and some malaria, but you don't see it with falciparum. So the person, without being infected again by another mosquito, comes down sick again for malaria, because now the hypnozoites that can last for years in the liver stage begins to shed into the blood stage. Following me?
Yes, miss.
Wonderful. So but for most parts, the liver stage comes down into the blood stage, so they're released. And so you get into the erythrocytic cycle, the blood stage. And so this is where now the lab technician begins to look to see what's happening with malaria. We talk about once it comes into yes, Rochelle?
So, miss, once it's in the liver, it means that malaria, it can't be transmitted?
No, right. Beautiful, beautiful question. So there are no symptoms and it can't be transmitted. It's transmitted from the blood stage, because the mosquito comes in to take up the blood. So that's an excellent question.
So wouldn't that person be like sick and probably die eventually, since the virus is still within the body per se?
No, it's the blood stage that creates the dangerous it's the parasite in the blood stage that causes the symptoms and the pathology that will lead to bad effects, not the hypnozoites. So the hypnozoites are there, but they're not the one that causes the pathology or the pathogenesis, as they call it, that gives like for malaria, for Plasmodium falciparum, you can have cerebral malaria, that the parasite goes to the brain and causes a whole lot of problem. falciparum is a dangerous malaria species, but it's not from the hypnozoite stage, it's from the trophozoite and schizont, or the blood stages. So those are the stages of the parasite that can cause sickness. Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, but that's an excellent question. Thank you for that. Okay, right. So the liver stage will shed into the blood now. So the hypnozoites will come down, and then you start a cycle in the blood stage, which the first when the technician looks, the first thing that they're looking for are some rings, and it looks exactly like that under the microscope, the malaria rings. So that's what we call a trophozoite, and then you have immature trophozoites, and you have mature trophozoites, and then you have the mature parasite that is called a schizont, and it is from the schizont you're going to get baby trophozoites coming out, and so the schizont will erupt and release baby malaria parasites that goes on to infect new red blood cells, and then the cycle continues. So it's this cycle of development within the red blood cell itself, and more red blood cells are being infected, that the person is becoming sicker and sicker and sicker. So the more red blood cells that is being infected, it's the more that the symptoms occur, and then some can now get into the brain and the other organs.
So, Miss, how it now become the gamma sites?
That's what I'm going to tell you now. So after several cycles of going from immature trophozoites to mature trophozoites to schizonts, after about 5 or 10 cycles, one of the trophozoites starts now to come off, and instead of going to become a schizont, they start to go to form gametocytes. You get that? So after several cycles of going from trophozoites to schizonts, some of the trophozoites now begin to go off to forming gametocytes. So do you see this offshoot towards the right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. But this is after several cycles of trophozoites to trophozoites, and a lot of cells are now infected. So it's like a mature infection. Then you start getting gametocytes being formed. So the parasite is now preparing to reproduce and continue itself. So after cycling a lot in the human, then it begins to produce the stage that is going to cause this life to continue. And so when we talk about catching the infection early, it means that we're catching it before the parasite begins to form gametocyte. Because in the early stages of the infection, she's not producing, not she, but the human is not producing gametes. The infection is not producing gametocytes. Person is just becoming ill. But after several cycles and blood cells being infected, and several blood cells are infected, the parasite now prepares to carry on its life. And so towards the end, it starts to produce gametocytes. Everybody follow? Because it's now preparing to continue its life, to go on, so the mosquito now, at that stage, the mosquito comes and bites. When the gametocytes are there, then that's how we get the transmission continuing. So remember I said earlier, gametocytes is what you're asking about. Yeah?
So, okay, Miss. So in the erythrocytic cycle, at that stage, we are now getting sick. We're feeling the signs and symptoms, but transmission only occurs when the gametocyte is produced.
Yes, beautiful. So you're feeling sick now with the erythrocytic cycle, but transmission to the mosquito, taking up something infectious, is only at the gametocyte. Beautiful. Everybody understand? All right, let's continue. So this is just another feature of it. I don't know why I put it in. Let me see if it is something that wasn't said in the other one. But it's all the same, but it's a beautiful cycle to know. Always ask question about it, even just for the purpose of see how the students spell sporozoites and hypnozoites. Okay. All right, so other mosquito-borne disease, West Nile virus. West Nile virus is one that it's endemic in the US. We are vulnerable and susceptible to it, although we have not had it, thank God, I think. But it can be transmitted by Culex mosquito. Bancroftian filariasis and Brugian filariasis can be transmitted by mosquitoes that we have here. As relates to the encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis, and Eastern equine encephalitis. We have had EEE, but we are receptive and susceptible to the Japanese and St. Louis encephalitis. We have not had them, thank God, but we are still susceptible. Now I want to move from mosquitoes. I never want to hear mosquitoes in this class ever again. So we're finished with mosquitoes. But for the completion of this, all right, I'm going to pause here. I'm not going to give you this because I don't want to confuse you. So we're moving to the other vectors. So I'm going to give Miss Harris. Is Miss Harris on?
Yes, miss.
You know, to create breakout rooms.
I've never done it before, but I can look.
Okay, look for me. Anybody else knows? I tell you. Oh yeah, breakout rooms. How many of us are on? 40? 5 into 40 is what, 8?
Yes, miss.
Right, like that. You know? Right, I've created 8 breakout rooms. They're all open. And you are being invited to join a breakout room. Can you see that?
Yes, miss.
All right, so just click to join your breakout room. Hey, I just learned that a while ago. No, I'm just, brilliancy is really not my problem.
Miss, how I join back the breakout rooms?
I close the breakout rooms because I need to give the instruction and I can't come to all of the 8 rooms to give all of the instruction. You understand me?
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the others to come back. All right, great. So everyone should be back on the main platform. So I've put in a group and I'm going to assign each group a particular vector-borne disease. And you're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so just researching amongst yourself, Googling the vector of the disease, a brief description of what the disease is, and how the disease can be controlled. So brief description of the disease, the vector of the disease, and you tell me a little bit about the vector, how it behaves, and how it can be controlled. Everybody understand? So you're going to get about 25 minutes to do that, and then we're going to come back, and then each of us are going to present. You can choose to do a little PowerPoint, or you can choose to speak. Need about 30 minutes to do it, right? 30 minutes. So the vector, so you're going to say the vector is cockroach. Cockroaches are so and so and so. They behave this way. The disease is this, that they transmit. These are the signs and symptoms of the disease, etc., etc. And then talk about what you find about controlling it. So you're going to have to spend some time Googling and looking it up, and then you're coming back now to present. Am I understood?
Yes, Miss.
Should I give you?
Yes, morning.
You want about 40 minutes for that?
Sure, Miss.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. So I'm opening back all the rooms. Good, good.